Story number. Found out my girlfriend has a sugar daddy on the side. We're renting a place together, and last night I find out in a conversation with her that she's been maintaining contact with some guy she met online years ago who's been basically her sugar daddy, sending her money in exchange for her engaging with him, sending him occasional nudes, replying to whatever he sends her. She told me that he's been this reliable source of money whenever she needed it, so she's been keeping him at hand. About 2 months ago, I helped her purchase a new gaming laptop. It turned out last night that half the money for that laptop, which I thought was hers, was actually from him. She sends him nudes to get the money. She told me that she did it because she felt uncomfortable asking me to pay for everything, so she preferred to take money from this guy she doesn't care about. For the record, she's currently unemployed, and I basically pay for our life together. She tried to tell me that it wasn't the big deal how she's been talking to him, but when I asked to see the conversation, she admitted that she doesn't think it'll look normal or reasonable if I see it. She deleted the conversation and blocked him, and then told me in her words what kind of talks they'd have. She'd send some nude. He'd send her porn or himself. They'd sometimes casually chat. He'd send her requests or sext her or offer to fly her out. She says that all this time he's aware that she's in a relationship. She said that her previous boyfriends knew about it and were okay with it, so she was surprised how much I took issue with it. She said that they even hyped her up for it. Plus, she said that just because we're boyfriend-girlfriend doesn't mean it's that serious or committed. She said that she feels nothing for him and that to her it was just a means to an end. Honestly, I don't know how to feel or what to do. It's so strange and hurtful to me. When I asked her how she'd feel about the reverse happening, and it being me who did it, she said that she'd be fine with it, and when I pressed her on why she'd feel fine with it, she left the room to go sit on her laptop in the bedroom. Story number. I think my boyfriend is going to cheat on me tonight. My boyfriend and I have been in a relationship for about months. It wasn't the greatest start to our relationship. Things started out as a hookup UFWB situation, but it quickly developed into flirting and talking about getting together seriously. He did sleep with another girl during our hookup phase, which upset me, but I understood he wasn't aware I was doing the hooking up exclusively with him, so I let it go. A few months later, we are dating but not officially in a relationship. It's going well, but I then get an STD out of nowhere. I know this must be from him as he's my only partner at this time, and I haven't had unprotected sex with anyone else in a short enough period for the symptoms to show. Obviously, I confront him. He finally admits he'd been sleeping with the same girl since he didn't realize that we were exclusive, again, since we're going on dates, not official. Again, I'm upset. I don't see him for a little while, but understand his point of view and let it go. This time, I make sure my communication is clear, because now we are officially in a relationship. He has a lot of female friends, but while sneaking peeks of him texting them a lot lol, nothing seems crazy at all. And they all seem to speak positively of me and his relationship with me. I did look at the messages when his phone was open and he was gone too, oops. I see this as a green flag to see women not just as partners but as equals, so when a get-together is planned with a few of my boyfriend's friends, I'm pleased that a few of his female friends will be there too. There was one girl in particular I really got on with, and she seemed to like me too. I spoke to her most of the night, and then me and my boyfriend left. Months later, I receive a text from someone who I'd met at the same party telling me that my boyfriend cheated on me a few weeks ago with that same girl I liked at the party. I'm devastated. This girl and my boyfriend both, one, knew very well that we were in a relationship, and two, seemed to get me and like me. I confront him the day later, as I feel too messed around and churned up the day of. He denies it a few times, then admits that he did, but only in retribution. For me cheating. I asked him why he thought this, and he said he'd seen my dating profile was active. This was how we met. I admit, I understand how this would look, and it was an immature move on my part. But I don't do any swiping on it. I purely use it to send my friends the cringy comments I get on my profile occasionally from older men, fetishing me. Like I said, immature, and I know how it looks, but I wasn't swiping on or chatting with anyone, just looking at comments. I told him this, so he apologized for the cheating, but I just didn't feel like that was enough. Sure, I understand the fury he must have felt. I understand how it looks, and I even understand why the girl felt it was okay to do. She thought me and him were over because of what he'd seen. He told me he slept with her that night, fully planning to break up with me in the morning, but didn't do so because he came to his sense and didn't want to throw the relationship away over my profile being active. Not until he had proper proof, so he didn't mention it to me. I had to find out in this way. This was the most upset I'd been so far. I told him that I understood his motives and feelings, but I couldn't accept that he had felt so justified in cheating to get back at me before he had even mentioned it to me. It was awful. Once again, I avoided him for a while until I decided it wasn't worth it, and I understood his point of view, even if it's not what I would have done. So we come to tonight. It's his birthday weekend, so he's having a friend over at his house for a sleepover. It's a girl I've met before who, again, seemed really nice and seemed to like me. She even complimented our relationship. But given all of the miscommunications and misunderstandings that have come before, I can't help but be upset about it. I feel sick knowing that she will be at his house tonight. His house has 2 bedrooms, one his mother's and one his. His room doesn't have enough floor space for another mattress, and neither does his living room. Keen to not let my own miscommunication get in the way again, I have texted him saying I'm not happy about it. He replied asking me why, since I have sleepovers with my female best friend. I'm bisexual, for context. But I just think this is different. He's exclusively attracted to women. Her relationship is either open or off and on, and he has been known to act like his relationship is off and on too. Story number. My boyfriend porn preferences differs from me physically a lot. I recently learned my BFS porn naked chic preference from his Reddit. I had full permission to be on his Reddit, and I already knew he watches porn or naked chics on Reddit. I was offended to see he had looked, but I got curious and looked at what he has recently looked at. Every single woman was very petite, small breast, no belly, very thin. I, on the other hand, am not petite. I'm in curvy with a small mom belly. I did talk to him about it, telling him I worried I wasn't really his type, and he might not find me all that attractive. We had a great talk, but my insecurities are plaguing me and I'm trying to figure out if this really is a thing I shouldn't be worried about or it's just me overthinking. I've never been big on porn, so I guess I just want some perspective. Can or does a person's porn preferences differ from what they have in real life? Does a person change what they look at for a while, and it's just something that he is currently in? We've been together for months and have a great relationship, communication, and sex life. I already plan on talking to my therapist about it and my BF again if I can't stop thinking about it. Figured I'd get strangers' thoughts on it too. Story number? I know I'm a douche. Let's start with my relationship. Me and my boyfriend met in high school and have been together for years. Hess wonderful. He actually is the most wonderful human being I know. He helped old men find their way home when they lost, gives up his jacket he could hardly afford to someone who seems worse off. And somehow he loves me. I'm atheist, and like if rock and rap had a crack baby. No clue why Hez with me. Well, a couple years back, me and a female friend got really drunk, alone. We had talked with our sayos about it, and mine was the onky one to give it the red light. My drunk mind threw it aside, and me and her went for a good 3 hours. He came over in the morning and bought us breakfast, not knowing what had happened. I told him the next day, me and her don't talk anymore. Me and my so just barely gotten to normal. We also were talking about issues we both refused to talk about before. About 2 months ago, we threw a huge party. And I mean a party, like beyond what I intended. I ended up high, and so drunk I can't hardly remember. All I remember is his best friend of years giving me a couple of cigs, not supposed to be drinking. And after that, I blacked out until I was pulling my face up from his crotch and his homeboy came out. I wish that was where my shittiness stopped. The next day, we tried to make plans to meet up to finish. While sober. Until about a month ago, I stopped even looking at other people. But then this guy, let's call him Kale, texted me out of the blue. We hadn't talked for years and he was checking in. We talked every day, and we still do. And we have made it apparent that we are into each other non-sexually and sexually. And I caught myself almost sending him an I love you Kale doesn't know about my so. And my so think Kale is an old friend that I'm just back on touch with. I know I'm horrible and should probably leave my so for his benefit, but when I look at him, I'm so overwhelmed with love and think of children and a picket fence. I just wanted to vent. I really don't want advice unless you're some weird Gandalf-type person. Story number. Husband amp. Wife cheated on each other with me but don't know. I am a hot wife and my husband is a stag. We've been involved in the lifestyle for about years. Our sexual escapades together have been extensive and a lot of fun. About a year ago, my husband asked me to stop by a coworker's to pick something up. He told me to wear something sexy and tease him just a little. The guy is hot, so I was excited at his request. I show up in a really short denim skirt, a wife beater and no bra. We were talking about working out and that his new wife had lost weight, and she was considering breast implants. I asked if he wanted to see AMP. Feel mime. Of course he agreed. About Mins into our conversation, his mother-in-law showed up. I introduced myself and left after about Mins. His wife knew I was stopping by, but we had never met, so she did think anything, plus her mom stopped by. A few weeks ago, they came over for a BBQ. We had a blast and quite a few shots. My husband's co-worker went into the restroom and waved me in. He pulled my swimming suit aside, got on his knees, and started licking my pussy. It was hot. He said Hess wanted to do this since I came over that day. So we go back out to the pool, and she starts telling my husband and I about her past sexual experiences, SOMS, group sex ECT, but has a prude and wouldn't do that sort of thing. We are all plastered at this point and start showing our boobs and getting a little touchy-feely with each other. Her husband gets a little uncomfortable, but he like it. So we end up in our bedroom. It's a really big room with a seating area, TV, ECT. The guys are completely smashed and both lay down on the bed. Her and I, for some drunk reason, left the room to get more drinks. When we came back, they were both passed out. We tried to wake them up, but they were blacked out drunk. So her and I go into the kitchen. She grabs me, pushes me against the washing machine, starts kissing me, and untied my bikini strings. I was naked in seconds. We have sex on the kitchen floor. Ha, my husband walked in really drunk, so we yelled, "Go to bed. Get out of here." He did. He didn't remember much other than we were on the floor naked. I am not bisexual. I have been with women, but I enjoy two men much more. This was quite a night, and not something I've ever experienced. Definitely something worth sharing. I haven't talked to either since that night. They asked if they could come back over soon the next morning, until we all meet up again. I wonder if they told each other. Story number. What's the best approach? Hi all. Very new to Reddit, so please bear with me if the structure of formatting seems off. I have proof my girlfriend of years plans to cheat on me this weekend, and I'm looking for tips on how to not handle the confrontation. Set 26 minutes. Have been living with my girlfriend, 25 minutes, for the past 2 years, and things have been decent. With a long weekend coming up, she asked if she could take a trip by herself back to her college town. She has a pretty stressful job and hasn't had many opportunities to unwind on her own, so I told her that I'd happily keep an eye on her 2 dogs while she goes out and gets a break from the household. She did mention that she would probably be seeing one of her old college friends, as he works about minutes down the road from campus. I've never been the jealous type, but something about how casually she brought it up and moved past stuck in my brain, so I decided to look through her Apple Watch last night while she was napping on the couch. Although I did not find any direct messages to this guy, likely talking to him on Snapchat, as she's always on that app, I did find a conversation between her and a male friend where she said my plan was to meet him on a 3-day weekend, go out with him, and have sex. I wasn't going to try and define a relationship, set any boundaries. I wasn't going to draw any attention to it. Just sex and move on. We don't have to discuss it, no ground rules. Digging back through their exchanges, there was no mention of me at all, and in several instances she referred to herself as single. I believe that this in itself is enough to end the relationship, but I've also considered hiring a PI, money permitting, to investigate her out-of-town activities. My thought is that although I have pictures from her phone of all the aforementioned text exchanges, she can be very convincing and careful, and I'm worried that she'll have a reasonable excuse in her back pocket that I haven't though of in case she gets confronted. I've also considered calling into work on Monday so that I can tail her myself all weekend, but that would require getting the dogs into daycare, if they even have availability. I think this weekend will be a good time to pack up the car with all of my possessions and put them in storage until I can find a new place. Here's where I could use some help. Would the PI be worth it to possibly obtain some more concrete evidence? Should I surprise and confront her in person after they do the deed? Should I move everything out and confront her when she returns, including pictures and reasoning? Should I move out and let her return home to a half-empty house and pictures on the counter of her infidelity? It might also be worth noting that she's been talking about marriage a lot lately. I've told her that I'm not ready for that step yet. I have some issues of my own to work on, not innocent in this regard, and that I would let her know when I reach that point and to please keep the marriage talk to a minimum. There hasn't been a week since where she doesn't ask, "Can I look at rings yet?" or brings up some snide remark about if we were married. I can't help but feel she's searching for this outside attention, because I refuse to lock her down as she has stated before. I imagine that my refusal to discuss marriage can be very frustrating, but this seems a bit extreme and counterproductive.